What's happening with Deontay Wilder? Well, we're not really hearing much news about Wilder returning to the ring, but his brother took another tumble as he lost to a journeyman who had 9 consecutive losses. Eric Abraham, he lost on points to him. Marcellus has been out in the ring a couple of years with COVID. He said it's tough being Deontay Wilder's brother because he can't develop at his own pace. He's always going to be compared, I guess, is his rationale on that. That may be true, but no one's forced him to pick up a pair of boxing gloves. What's his record now? Marcellus is now 5-3 with 2 stoppage victories. 2 of his losses have been by KO. And then we have Wilder's coach, or some may say a yes man, in this hybrid fight, but it was boxing rules in Russia against some MMA guy. And it looked like Malik threw the fight. I don't know how much they paid him, but he was outboxing his opponent with relative ease, it seemed. He dropped him with a body shot. They gave his opponent the decision, and Malik passively looked on, like, okay. It looked like a fixed fight. What's he doing in fights like that? Are Marcellus and Malik trying to inspire Wilder to come back? If so, they need to get their skills up. Now, I wasn't too thrilled about this AJ post that came up. He said he's proud of Will Smith. Now, AJ's met Will Smith just ahead of the Olympics in 2012 when he won it in London. Will was filming for Men in Black 3. And, you know, they took some photos and put on the gloves and the mitts and they moved around a little. AJ said he's proud that Will Smith slapped Chris Rock. Next time, use a closed fist. Now, I don't agree with what Will Smith did, but if AJ is going to condone what Will Smith is doing, then when Jarrell Miller was hurling disrespectful language in the direction of Joshua's mother, well, how come he didn't close his fist and go ham on Jarrell Miller? In fact, it was Jarrell Miller who pushed him. I think Jarrell was mad because his own mother, and I hope I'm not misquoting here, thought he was a bit of all right. I think that's why Jarrell was put out a little. The Anthony Joshua drawing power shows up once again. For the Saudis to step in, because the fight was heading to London, back to Tottenham and Wembley, they've stepped in with a 120 million bid, 40 million more than what they put up for the rematch of Joshua and Ruiz. Joshua is the challenger, and they're saying Usyk will at least get parity, 50% at least. Usyk knows he can't get that money without Joshua. Joshua is the draw here. He's the draw, even though he's the challenger. And we're talking about June the 25th. Usyk's going to need 2 months to get himself right. He looked a bit drawn in the face in a picture I saw recently. So he needs a 2 months camp. And we're going to get it on. See if Joshua can get his belts back in Saudi. Vladimir and Vitaliev gave Usyk his blessing, saying he'd be better served fighting Joshua than sticking around in the Ukraine with a machine gun to promote the cause of the Ukrainian people. If AJ beats Usyk, are they going to say, well, Usyk wasn't fully focused, the war had his mind elsewhere? But will I really care? Because an AJ win, you know what that ensures? And it doesn't matter who's lined up for mandatories or voluntary, it really doesn't. You know what that ensures? An all-British showdown for undisputed. I think Tyson Fury is favourite to beat, well, not I think, Tyson Fury is the favourite to beat Dillian. But that's not a foregone conclusion. If Fury is not on his game, he will not only be beaten, he will be knocked out. Big heavyweight action to come. And, you know, like the Saudis, they're going to take away the undisputed fight from the UK if it's an all-British showdown, aren't they? I mean, if AJ's involved, they're going to put up money. They didn't put up no money for Tyson Fury versus Wilder. They didn't put up no money for Tyson Fury versus Dillian. Nothing. You should have heard them on TalkSport. You could see Simon Jordan and Gareth A. Davis was really put out about the kind of money that AJ's going to make in Saudi Arabia. And Gareth Davis was urging Joshua not to fight in Saudi Arabia because of their human rights record. But if it was Tyson Fury, Gareth Davis would have been working on his narrative, defending Tyson Fury to the hilt. You know, basically saying, please don't get paid so much more than Fury, AJ. Please don't be so much popular than Tyson Fury, AJ. Simon Jordan was breaking it down. Frank Warren bid $30 million for Fury and White. Dillian gets 6, an extra couple of million if he wins. Fury is said to be getting 24, but people are speculating that they did a deal that they could bump up the purse bid but not pay Tyson his 75 split 24 mil in a bid to secure the purse bid over Eddie. And if that's the case, they were successful. AJ is getting God knows how much in Saudi Arabia if it goes ahead, because a lot of people are protesting about the fight being held there, so I'm not sure if it will be. But it's a whole load of money. The media are putting it out there as 120 million. They done their amateur mathematics and said if it was in the UK, it would probably be a $60 million fight, with AJ getting about 40. Usyk getting about 20, even though AJ is the challenger. And you can see it was making it really sour, especially Gareth A. Davis. But yo, Fury had his chance to fight AJ. Him, Bob Arum, and Frank Warren, and they blew it, mate. And they blew it.
What can we get to in this country?
Well, I think, it's 40 million for him and 20 million for Usyk, something
so it's
like
a
that.
60 million. I mean, we've got 30 million. We've got 30 million. Frank's bid 30 million, isn't he? Best part of 30 million for Tyson versus Dillian White.
Whether people like it or not, AJ has drawn kids, women, casuals, if you like. I don't really like that word, into the sport. He's the A side. He's the draw. I would argue worldwide he's a bigger draw than Canelo. And until he either retires or his career deteriorates to the point he can't draw like that, you're just going to have to fucking lump it. Like, I tell you what, man. The undercard for Fury versus Dillian, Jared Anderson has pulled out injured. He was supposed to fight Christian Hammer. That would have been a decent fight to watch, a good prospect. But he's pulled out. The only confirmed undercard fight is Isaac Lowe against a TBA. And we saw Isaac get cleaned up by a Mexican fighter in his last fight. You're telling me Anthony Yarde shouldn't be on this card? Staying active. High profile. Stadium fight. I saw the interview where he's talking about the offer from Joshua Buatsi. And look, that's a big fight. We know he's waiting for a world title. Maybe that fight is more convenient down the line. I'm not going to lie. But I'd like to see him on this Tyson Fury bill against a good opponent. I don't want to see him waiting around for the winner of Beterbiev and Smith. It's just not going to be a good preparation. But April ain't too far away. It's not far away, right? And if Frank was serious, he would have already had him on the card, even if it's against a TBA. Not only would it promote Yarde, it would promote the Fury and White main event too. You want to get someone like Yarde on there. But is Frank skimping out on the undercard because he's got to pay Tyson this huge amount of money, supposedly? Come on, man. I mean, big up Isaac Lowe. He loves my channel, He loves my channel. Not. But he's not going to draw in any extra pay-per-view buys. So Saturday's IBF featherweight world title fight left Josh Warrington with a broken jaw. The right side of his jaw was broken. Josh gave Eddie permission to show the x-rays of the fractures with a break. Josh was saying no fraps on Monday like normal. Instead, it's porridge in a cup, all liquid and watered down. His jaw's wired up. Martinez could barely open his eyes. Swellings and cuts and stitches. It was a brutal fight. It's a brutal sport. And Josh himself said the price you have to pay to be champion. And the funny thing is, Josh was so dominant, most of us are scratching our heads thinking, where did KIKO break his jaw? But KIKO did land some big shots. He did land some good shots. And perhaps the wear and tear is taking its toll on Josh now. Sometimes them breaks are not from the actual current fight the fighter is in at present. Sometimes they're wear and tear from previous fights. Like after Mayweather hit Victor Ortiz, when Ortiz was trying to touch gloves, after headbutting Mayweather, and Mayweather floored him and knocked him out, Ortiz's jaw was never the same. It was never the same again. And Mauricio Lara, a power puncher, he hit Josh with some big shit. He did. And maybe let's carry over from that, because it's not clear to see what punch KIKO broke Warrington's jaw. Then you got the sparring. I don't like Josh's chances against Lee Wood. I think Lee hits harder than Josh. Although Josh showed good punch power with that overhand right to deck KIKO. A lot of people didn't like the usage of the head. But it wasn't just the head, it was the shoulder as well from Josh. Yeah, it was robust. I'm from that school of boxing where, okay, it's dirty, but KIKO had a full training camp to prepare for that, and as champion, He should have been prepped for that. You know, whether he was too upright for Josh's headbutts, maybe he should have just leaned his head and gave Josh the cranium to headbutt, use his legs better. Whatever it needs is what you do. And he had enough time to prep for the fight, knowing that it's going to be rough and tough. You saw the Lara rematch with Josh Warrington, and he was using his nut. So the heads up was there. And he came off second. You know, like, it's all right talking about what Josh did illegally, but he timed his fight perfectly, man. Like, he jumped all over KIKO, who was getting a beating for the most part against Galahad before he landed the power shots. And Warrington wisely jumped on him and scored a knockdown, beating KIKO up. But when he realized that KIKO wasn't just going to go like that, Josh got up on his toes and boxed. And then when it was time to close the show, he closed the show. Good hand speed, good punch picking. I give him credit for the win. I know some people are going to say, but Beats is just dirty fighting. I give him credit. I give him credit for the fight. He got away with what he could. He pushed the envelope as far as he could in terms of fouls, illegal tactics. And I get people are not happy with it, and I'm not totally happy with it. But as long as there are those of you to voice your opinion, I think you should voice your opinion. And I think he should be discouraged from using his head like that. 100%. 100%. But when he's in the ring, he's going to do what he can get away with. And he got away with it on Saturday. I'm going to give him a little dap for the win. You know what I mean? I actually enjoyed his performance. I think it was a good performance. Now let's keep it, you know, a buck or two. Warrington being the A side, having hometown advantage, and the scenario to a degree has been set up for him to win the title. He didn't really deserve the title shot ahead of Mauricio Lara, if there was any fairness in boxing. But it is what it is. And him being in Leeds, big crowd, he's going to get away with a lot more than what he would if he was fighting KIKO in Spain, obviously. But this is what A-side privileges can do. He gets away with a lot more fouls. If he's fighting abroad, he probably won't be as successful. He definitely won't be as successful. Some people say the Timzoo-Terrell Goucher fight was controversial. Not seeing it at all. Goucher has got some skills, no doubt, and I said that beforehand. When he decked him with that right hand in the first, he had him in trouble. But he was probably, oh man, look, I floored him, because he wasn't mentally where he should be. And that potentially could be attributed to the inactivity. The inactiveness makes you miss opportunities when you hurt opponents. You see openings that if you was active, you'd be able to take advantage of. But he allowed him to survive and got outworked. Goucher had how much? 2 fights in the last 4 years. Australian kid had about 5 fights in the same space of time. And Goucher has been at the PBC a long time. But they're basically using him as an opponent, an inactive opponent, to fill up Timzoo's record. And Zoo won the fight handily. He didn't look impressive. Jaime Munguia, 5 fights in 2 years. And these are the fighters they're trying to get over there. I don't know if they're trying to sign Timzoo long term, but I think they want to get in that Australian market. Jaime, they tried to get him as an opponent for Jamal. What they have to realize is that these are active fighters, so yeah, they're attractive propositions to put on your network. Why don't Al just keep his own fighters busy and make them attractive commodities that people want to see? To be fair on Benavidez, he has tried to fight regular. I think he fought 3 times last year. But Jamal Charlo, Derivyachenko and Montiel in the last, 2 years? And then they're asking for a Canelo fight. His profile is just not where it should be. Like Triple G, even though it was against weak opposition, before he fought Canelo, how much times was he fighting a year? 4 or 5 times a year. So even though I'm not impressed with the championship record, his visibility was high and people were calling for the fight. Eddie Hearn, gets a lot of criticism, but he's tried to make them fights for Haney and Andrade, and he said to the parties concerned, we don't care if it's on your network or our network. We need to keep these guys busy in career-defining fights. Look at Devin now. Okay, people are saying it's a bad deal, but he's doing what he has to. He said he doesn't care. I have to fly to Australia. I have to sign with Bob, Lou DiBella and whoever. I don't care. He's talking about legacy. Now, this is what Tank needs to do now he's out of TMT, because let's not forget, Devin was the fifth option to fight Kambosos. Tank was way in front of Devin. As far as Luke DeBella was concerned, if Tank and Floyd had won it, they could have had this fight. But instead, we're just going to do in-house fights and shit like that. Devin had a great situation with Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn understood. He's supporting Devin, even though he's lost him and DAZN have lost him. And in my opinion, you know, Leonard's talking about Tank being the next superstar. Well, is Leonard still saying that now? If Devin gets it right, he could be undisputed champion at 135, which is one of the most attractive divisions in the game, overtaking Tank. This is what you call betting on yourself. Not what Wilder did. That was nonsense. Opting to fight Fury with no belt to offer over the unified champion, arguably the biggest draw in the game. Like, I've heard people saying that Tank might not be leaving. I hope he does leave. I hope he does leave, man, because Gamboa, this Isaac Cruz and Barrios, they've just been wasted exercises, man. And like, 7 million to fight Tevin Farmer. If Tank was to get the undisputed fight next, he wouldn't get 7 million. But when them offers came in, what did Leonard and Floyd do?
Absolutely nothing.
So Nair Inoue and Nonito Donaire are set to do it again. A 3-belt unification bout at bantamweight. Inoue has the WBA and IBF titles, along with Donaire's WBC strap. It will be on Japan's Amazon Prime Video. US television distribution rights were not available at the time. So what happened to Top Rank then? Is Inoue still signed with them? It's just been a total waste of time in being signed there. Inouye's recently been rolling PBC style, hasn't he? But it's good that this fight is back on. Saitama Super Arena in Japan, June the 7th. The first encounter in November 2019, World Boxing Super Series final. What can you say about that fight without going over the top? What can you say? It was excellent. Now this is a rematch people want to see. Like Conlon and Wood. Like I don't get the people. I want to see Conlon and Wood. What, before Wood and Warrington for actual 2 straps? No, I don't get it. I don't get it. But this here, great fight. Golovkin says he will not be categorized by his rivalry with Canelo. He talks about his 21 defenses. That includes the lower tier belt you won as well, yeah? That includes that, yeah? And the amount of knockouts he's got. I've seen people get passionate about Triple G, or at least try to, and to me, it must be a bit faked or staged, because he just doesn't move the needle for me. It just doesn't move the needle. But then again, I know the history of the middleweights, don't I? So it's easy to impress the casuals. This is when I use the word casual, with Triple G's resume and his accomplishments. All right, so these catchweight negotiations are ongoing for Munguia versus Jacobs on DAZN. Munguia is not going to fight Jamal Charlo on June the 18th. And that's for a title. Is he a little tight at 160, Munguia? Why he doesn't want to take the chance to fight Charlo for the title? Because, no disrespect to Charlo, if we're just talking skill for skill, is there much more risk fighting Charlo than there is fighting Danny Jacobs? I'm not sure there is. I know Munguia has been fighting 160 in his last 5 or 6 fights, and he's making the limit pretty easy. But perhaps making 160 and taking on someone like Charlo, who's a step ahead of most of the people he's been fighting at 160, might be a bit of a... I don't get it, really. Why are you not going for a title shot? I can understand them ducking Andrade, because Andrade is a mess for a lot of 160-pounders to fight. It's a lot of headaches. Did Jacobs really look that shot against John Ryder? That they're just seeing Jacobs as a scalp right now? Perhaps. It says here that Munguia and Jacobs will box at a catchweight higher than 164, despite rumours that they've settled on 164. But, you know, they're trying to iron out all the kinks, and it's a very good fight for DAZN. In saying that, it is a very good fight. Munguia has turned down Andrade, Charlo, and the Eastern European fan club's favourite right now, Janibek. At this stage here, like, why are they avoiding title fights like that? It's the strangest thing I've seen. I've never seen nothing like it. All the options for title fights, they just avoid. I'd love Jacobs to pull off an upset here. I really would. Not a Munguia fan. Not a Munguia fan. Didn't they pull him out of the Golovkin fight a few years back? Yeah, they did. Amir Khan, yeah, your privileges have ran out for a fighter past it. And it's hard for fighters at that stage of their career to accept it. Now, the first run around with Brook versus Khan, I purchased the pay-per-view, and so did a lot of people, and it done good numbers. Sold out the Manchester Arena. But what goes around comes around for Amir Khan. Remember when he was telling Brook he needed to go and get a world title, he needed to better people before he fought him? Well, Ben Shalom has made it clear that Amir Khan must first prove he's not finished before considering a rematch against Kell Brook. So the network are demanding improvements from Amir Khan. They're not just handing over bags like that. I doubt at this stage of Khan's career he has the resolve to, let me have to prove myself to get the bag. I think he just wants the big fight against Brook. His other option, though, may be to suck up to Eddie Hearn and play sacrificial lamb to Conor Benn. That might be an option for him if he wants the bag that bad. That's if DAZN or Matchroom still want that fight. I'm not sure if they want it now. They want the winner, don't they? They want Brook. What's Brook demanding? 10 million? I'm reading on, and Eddie said he made an offer to Brook which was more money than Brook got for fighting Khan. And then Khan's people got in contact with Eddie and said, well, how much would you pay to fight Khan? And this is after Khan has lost to Brook. So Eddie said he'll give him the same offer, give Khan the same offer that he's giving Brook. They said surely Khan would get more, even though he's lost to Brook, and that's what Eddie said. But you just lost to Kell Brook. These people have gone crazy. They've gone crazy. They're in the twilight of their career. They're trying to squeeze the game for everything. And you can understand that. You can understand that. The Brook Eubank fight is what Ben Shalom is talking about. And it looks like the issues are over what weight the fight will be made, not so much the purse. I don't think Brook is going to hold out for a $10 million pound purse. I think he's asking Eddie for $10 million because he's not on best terms with Eddie. Brook has asked Eubank to move down to 155. Eubanks is writing that off. Eubanks reckons that Brook walks around at 180 and will be heavier than him on fight night. Eubank is talking about maybe 158. He could come down to 158. That's a push, though. He says if they fight at 160, the most he's going to rehydrate to is 165. He claims that when Brook fought Gennady Golovkin, that Brook came in at 168. The fact that Eubank is pursuing this fight so hard is a real disappointment for me, but it's his career. Go after Janibek, go after Andrade, go after Charlo, even Munguia. These are good fights.